Good morning. On behalf of the Greater Muskegon Memorial Day Parade Committee, we'd like to welcome you this morning to the Hackley Park Memorial Day ceremony. As is tradition, we'll be reading Logan's Orders, which originally started the Memorial Day Decoration Day, is what it was originally called, ceremony. And this will be presented by Don Carson, VFW Commander of Post 446. Don?
Headquarters of the Grand Army of the Republic, Washington, D.C., May 5th, 1868. The 30th day of May, 1868 is designated for the purpose of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating graves of comrades who died in defense of their country during the late rebellion, whose bodies now lay in almost every city, village, hamlet, churchyard in this land. Observance, no form of ceremony is prescribed, but posts and comrades will in their own way arrange such fitting services and testimonies of respect as circumstances may permit. We are organized, comrades, as our regulations tell us, for the purpose, among other things, of preserving and strengthening those kind of fraternal feelings which have bound together soldiers, sailors, and Marines who united to suppress the late rebellion. What can aid more to assure this result than by cherishing tenderly the memory of our heroic dead who made their breasts a barricade between our country and its foes? Their soldiers' lives were the reveille of freedom to erase and change, and their deaths a tattoo of rebellious tyranny in arms. We should guard their graves with sacred vigilance. All that consecrated wealth and taste of the nation can add to their adornment, and security is but a fitting tribute to the memory of our slain defenders. Let no wanton foot tread rudely upon such hallowed grounds. Let pleasant paths invite the coming and going of reverent visitors and fond memories. Let no vandalism or artifice or neglect, no ravages of time testify to the present or to the coming generations that we have forgotten as a people the cost of a free and undivided republic. As other eyes grow dull and other hands slack and other hearts cold, in solemn trust ours shall keep it well. As long as the light and warmth of life remains to us, let us then at the time appointed gather around their sacred manes and garland the passionless mounds above them with the choicest flowers of springtime. Let us raise above them the dear old flag that they saved from dishonor. Also, let this solemn presence renew our pledge to aid and assist them who they have left among us as a sacred charge upon a nation's gratitude, the soldiers and sailors, widow and orphan. It is the purpose of the Commander-in-Chief to inaugurate this observance with the hope it will be kept up from year to year. While a survivor of their war remains to honor the memory of his departed comrade, he earnestly desires the public press to call attention to this order and lend his friendly aid in beginning to the notice of comrades in all parts of the country in time for simultaneously compliance herewith. Department commanders will use every effort to make this order effective. N.P. Chipman, Adjutant General, by order of John A. Logan, Commander-in-Chief.
Lieutenant Ronald M. Janowski is a senior Army instructor of junior ROTC at Muskegon High School. He has been a JROTC instructor for 14 years. He was in the Grand Rapids area for 13 years before coming to Muskegon in 2011. Colonel Janowski was raised as an Army brat. He is the 1976 graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point and a 1998 graduate of the United States Army War College. He has a master's degree in systems management from the University of Southern California and is working on a second master's degree in military history from Norwich University. Commissioned as a second lieutenant in the field artillery, he served multiple tours in Germany, Oklahoma, and Washington State with weapon systems including both the 105mm and the 155mm tube artillery and the Pershing II intercontinental nuclear missile. In this alternate military specialty of research and development, he has served at the Army Research Laboratory in Washington, D.C., and was the United States Army Research and Development Liaison to the Canadian government in Ottawa, Canada. He retired in 1998 after 22 years to teach JROTC in Michigan. Since 1998, he has helped over 2,000 teens to become better citizens through JROTC. His military awards include the Legion of Merit, the Meritorious Service Medal for 2 awards, the Army Commendation Medal, 3 awards, and the Army Achievement Medal, 3 awards. He is both airborne and Ranger qualified. As a JROTC instructor, he was a candidate for Instructor of the Year in 2005 and in 2006, and he represented the state of Michigan in the inaugural Lincoln Fellowship Program, co-sponsored by Horace Mann Insurance and the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum in Springfield, Illinois. Colonel Janowski is married to Karen D. Wade of Stevens Point, Wisconsin, who is also an Army veteran. They have one son, Philip, who is a junior at Lowell High School. Please welcome us, help me welcome Colonel Janowski. Colonel?
Well, I certainly hope what I have to say today is far more interesting than my biography. What a beautiful day. What a beautiful day. Now, Bill Eaton over here in 446 says his arthritis says it's going to rain. I don't believe it. You know, I think many of us would agree that our society today is a short-term memory kind of society. We kind of like our adventures, our dramas, our sitcoms packaged in half-hour periods, maybe an hour. If they're really, really involved, they take a mini-series. And it seems that our interactions are guided more by what have you done for me lately than by the golden rule. But you know what? At least once a day, I should say at least once a year, on this day, we get it right. We look at the long term. We see the big picture. Memorial Day began as Decoration Day in the closing years, in the years just after the Civil War, when people got together and remembered their comrades and remembered the struggle that they had gone through. I'm going to share this podium this morning with one of the greatest speakers that ever spoke during the years of celebrating Memorial Day. The speaker was a great speaker during the 1880s and 90s. He himself was a veteran of the Civil War. As a young man at the age of 20 years old, the war broke out in 1861, and he chose to leave college. Like many of his generation, he was taken up by the excitement and the fervor and the patriotism of the great cause. Having college as part of his resume, he soon found himself an officer in his local militia, the 20th Massachusetts Infantry, and he marched off to war. A scant year later, the young man found himself leading his troops in one of the great battles of the war. And on the 17th of September of 1862, in western Maryland, near a town called Sharpsburg, in a creek called Antietam, he found himself in the midst of the great struggle. At about 9 o'clock that morning, his unit was marching across a cornfield, already strewn with the debris of battle that had been going on for over 3 hours, when suddenly the young man was knocked completely off his feet. A large caliber bullet went completely through his throat, knocking him to the ground. Now the troops of the 20th Massachusetts, they feared for their lieutenant, but already battle-hardened veterans, they could do nothing for him. They showed a bit of remorse perhaps, and then continued on to whatever fate that the battle held for each of them. The battle raged on for another 9 hours, and as night fell, the battle ended. The Battle of Antietam was one of the bloodiest battles of the war. It was the single bloodiest day in American history. 23,000 casualties. And on that battlefield, as night fell, there were 3,000 at least confirmed dead just from that day alone. But miraculously, the lieutenant was not one of them. As he awoke in the darkness of a nightmare, surrounded by the dead and the dying, he was alive. The hole through his throat had missed every major artery, every major vein, had missed the spinal cord. He managed to patch the hole with his hand and found a hospital. There they nursed him back to health. His father had already been notified in Massachusetts of his son's death, and he was on a train coming down to retrieve the body. It's not recorded, but the absolute joy of finding each other alive and still in this world must have been beyond words. Oliver Wendell Holmes went back to college. He became a lawyer, a good lawyer. He became a justice in the Massachusetts system of judiciary and eventually became nominated and appointed as a Supreme Court Justice of the United States Supreme Court. He is one of the greatest Supreme Court justices in our American history. But in the 1880s and 1890s, he was perhaps better known as a speaker on Memorial Day because he never hesitated to come and celebrate this day. What he said was, "It is fine if we remember those who have passed before us and remember the service that they gave. And it is fine that we honor those that still serve today. But if we stop at remembering and if we stop at honoring, we fail them. Each of us fail them and discredit them and do them dishonor if we do not take into our own hearts the lesson they give each of us." Oliver Wendell Holmes spoke of this as a national day of enthusiasm and faith. He spoke in 1884 in New Hampshire at a Memorial Day presentation that in his youth, his generation was privileged to be touched by the fire. And that made all the difference. As you go around the cities of this great country, and even here, as you look around at this magnificent monument behind us, and the buildings to the right and to the left and to the fore, you see the residue of that great generation. You see, the crisis did more than simply save a nation. It bonded a people. Like taking the components of steel and putting them into a great furnace, it put in each of them a core of steel that carried them onward into their own future and saved this country for us. This Memorial Day is something to be taken not as a memory, not as an honor to those who serve, although we do them great credit to give them honor, but we do them greater credit to take from them the example they set, and for each of us to take that example and take it into our hearts in everything we do. We pass that on whether we have served or whether we have simply served within our community. My family came to this country well after the Civil War. My grandparents came from Europe and came to this country, and they took on that great spirit of faith and enthusiasm. They built it into my parents, and my parents into me, and my wife and I pass it on to our son. Great enthusiasm and faith in this country, in what we are, what we have been, but more importantly, what we are going to become, with each of us giving that extra push. We have the need to be touched by the fire. We have the need for adversity to bring us together. There's a popular song out right now by Kelly Clarkson in which she quotes Nietzsche, a philosopher, that says, "What does not kill us makes us stronger." And it's so for each of us. We can all look back in our past and we see times of trouble and how we came through stronger than before. And that is true for a people as well. Our grandparents went through the Great Depression or World War II. These made us stronger as a nation. After 9/11, we probably remember, many of us, how every single neighborhood in this country had an American flag flying. We lose that quickly. Those flags are now rolled and gathering dust in many homes. But the need is still there every day. And the importance of this day is to remember, to honor, and to take into our hearts that great fire. Holmes said, "There are many things we cannot control in our lives, For you young folks, I guarantee you there is more than a little bit of luck in your future. There are things that we cannot control. But the one thing that Oliver Wendell Holmes said that we can control is that we can take into every endeavor a mighty heart. A mighty heart to take forward and to share and to do the best we can at whatever we do. It is my message to you from Oliver Wendell Holmes and to every one of you that we take a mighty heart in what we do. Share this country with a mighty heart. Build all of us together a mighty heart and take us into a stronger and better future for all of us. May God bless us. God bless the United States of America. Thank you.